Next up, David Lynch, and luckily he might not have been a contemporary director to include in this big list, but he is, because he directed Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, all 18 episodes, 18 hours of Lynch, and they were released in 2017, so it's perfect, easily qualifies for this for the ranking. One of the best directors of all time, most prominent making films back in the 80s and 90s. His very first film, which he made on like a shoestring budget, is in its own way a little bit of a masterpiece. Eraserhead. Just made so many cool films since though. But yeah, if I'm judging him solely off Twin Peaks The Return, he goes in genius, because that is one of the best series of television of all time ever made. One of the most expressive, artistic, avant-garde, surreal, just bizarre, fucking unexpected fucking works that I can't... It's just absolutely unbelievable. That's third season of Twin Peaks. Because if you don't know, it was a third season of Twin Peaks that came out 25 years after its original runtime. So all of the actors were 25 years older. Okay, it was 91, but 92 when Twin Peaks was first coming out, and there was stuff that was set up back then that was like came into fruition in this fucking new season in 2017. But yeah, one of the best fucking seasons of a television show of all time. He's got it. David Lynch. David Robert Mitchell directed It Follows and Under the Skin, so again, he's a good example of a modern director. You know, he's just grown up, looks like a fucking, just like he's hit puberty. Under the Silver Lake is one of probably my favourites of the last decade. I want to rewatch it again just to solidify it in my brain. Again, it's one of those films where you don't exactly know what's going on or what it's all about. On a surface level, it's just inherently interesting. Kind of Lynchian, I guess, in that way. But Under the Silver Lake is a much better film than It Follows, which was his first film, which is a very creative horror film with, again, cool subtext like those 70s films had, like with this horror film with a cool message, cool subtext, which is kind of the best horror films at the moment. The only thing that's holding me back on loving It Follows is just the characters not behaving in realistic ways. But perhaps there was more subtlety going on, like there's like implied history that certain characters have with each other that you're expected to pick up on, or maybe I didn't pick up on it, I don't know, maybe I'm a fucking idiot. I'm going to put him in remarkable, still fairly up and coming, but I did really fucking love Under the Silver Lake. Can't be a fool to direct that. So yeah, he goes in remarkable at the very least. Denis Villeneuve is next. Denis Villeneuve, you've probably seen at least a couple of his films, because so he directed Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal in 2013, Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal in 2013, Sicario in 2015, Arrival 2016, Blade Runner 2049 in 2017. Progressively, he just gets better and better. I kind of love all those films. I think Sicario is my least favourite, but still, that's a really like strong film. Prisoners is fucking great, just a brilliant, gripping film. You could watch that, great pizza movie. Bit dark though, but Jake Gyllenhaal, you love seeing Jake Gyllenhaal as well, because he's great in that, Jake Gyllenhaal. Enemy, you get a really good character study that's more for the artsy people, but still really cool, surreal character study. Anyway, I need to get on with it. But yeah, he's making Dune. Dune's coming out very soon. Might be out by the time I've got this fucking video out, but Dune, we're yet to see what Dune is like. But yeah, he's on the tracks for being a really great director. I think he is already a great director, but like a fucking visionary, because every film he's done that I've seen of him is fucking great, actually. You know, there's no like, oh, it's fairly good, that. No, it's fucking, for the most part, fucking brilliant, man. So yeah, he goes in our tour easily. But yeah, Blade Runner 2049, fucking hell, he absolutely knocked that shit apart. I didn't even give a shit about Blade Runner that much, but Blade Runner 2049 made me fall in love with that fucking world. That is one of my favourite films of the last decade. Arrival I really liked as well. Donald Glover, because it's funny, because obviously everyone knows Donald Glover, so I put him in here. Hello, I'm Donald Glover, hello. Donald Glover directed Atlanta, which is his show. He's the artistic guy behind it, and I just wanted to include him because it is a very well directed show, and it's pretty much the only thing he's directed, so he's easily going and talented at the very least. Could have even just like got into remarkable, but you know, just fucking hell, like it's a very competently made show from what I remember, because it's been a while. I haven't seen the second season. Yeah, so he goes there. Edgar Wright, alright, I think everyone knows where Edgar Wright's going already, but fucking hell. He's only done 5 films, but he's made such a fucking huge name for himself. So he did the Cornetto trilogy, which is beloved amongst every cinephile, I think. For good reason, because as that Every Frame of Painting video pointed out, he tells visual jokes with editing, and he's very visual. But yeah, he's objectively, he's a fucking ridiculously visually expressive guy. Like a comedic Danny Boyle. And the only reason I kind of wanted to hold back on saying Danny Boyle was the best British filmmaker of all time was because like, Edgar Wright Edgar Wright's up there as well. So yeah, he did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Baby Driver is his weakest film easily, just in terms of not as much depth to the characters, but still really cool, really funny, really unique for that the year it came out. Just like, yeah, just a great addition to film. Just like, oh, that's fucking cool. Want to put Baby Driver on? Yeah, sure. He's also got a film coming out very soon, Last Night in Soho, which is a horror film. He's only ever done comedies or action comedies, so to see him take on a whole different genre is fucking ridiculously exciting. He's like the British Tarantino. He's a film encyclopedia. He's got all these films in his mind. He's channeling Dario Argento and other Italian spaghetti slashers, I think they're called, from the 70s, 60s, 80s, whatever. And he's channeling all that style into Last Night in Soho. And that's, you don't want to overhype it, but there's a lot of rational, good reason to be excited for that film, because I think he's an artistic guy, and just like, he's making something different. And I love to see really talented people who are talented at doing this one thing do something completely different. So yeah, he easily goes. It's like the black and white club up here, isn't it? The black people with the black and white picture. But yeah, I think my favourite film of I fucking love World's End too, even though not many people do. But I fucking love that film. I think my favourite of his films is Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. It's very hard between those two. But I love World's End too. World's End's got like a lot of heart. Okay, Shaun of the Dead. Fuck it, Shaun of the Dead. Because that's one of my favourite films of all time. Yeah, thanks Edgar Wright for your contribution. Gareth Edwards. Okay, Gareth Edwards is another one of those indie directors who gets picked up by the big wigs at Hollywood and say, "You direct this now." He directed Star Wars Rogue One. He's definitely competent. I didn't like Rogue One. I thought it was kind of boring and shit. Not really his fault. I guess he just limited creatively, wasn't he? Because he can't do fuck all. But he tried to make it cool in some aspects with good, cool action, gritty action. He made Godzilla, which I wasn't too keen on, but again, he tried to do some certain things. He's really good with scale because of like how to make Godzilla fucking massive, but he just, I don't know, something weird happened with Godzilla because it could have been fucking really cool, but I don't know, just the acting in that wasn't good, the characters weren't great. The film that put him on the map as an indie director was this film called Monsters or something, Monster Munch. I don't know, I haven't seen that. That's the one I haven't seen, so I don't really know where he's at. From all I've seen, he's kind of would fit perfectly in Bland, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and put him in Talented. He just needs to go back to making real fucking movies. Garth Davis, this is kind of a funny one. I didn't know who this guy was, but I just thought I'd put him in. He made Lion, which got nominated a couple of years ago. I haven't seen Lion. It was just one of those, like, okay, that one as well. I looked at the trailer and I was like, okay, so Slumdog Millionaire without the flair then. And I was like, fuck, I'm not watching it. It might be a fucking masterpiece, I don't give a shit. But he also made a film that I have seen, unfortunately, called Mary Magdalene, which is probably the most boring retelling of a biblical story. Just fucking hell. My mum's Christian and she thought it was fucking boring. So, you know, my mum is a strong fucking Christian and she thought it was fucking boring. It had Walking Phoenix in it as Jesus. What could have gone wrong? But yeah, that's why I watched it with her, because like Walking Phoenix was fucking... Joaquin Phoenix was Jesus. But yeah, what a fucking douchebag. He's like a perfect example of Bland, he is. Next up, in the G section, quite a different fucking one. My mum hasn't seen any of this guy's films. Gaspar Noé. Noé. Why did I fuck that up? Gaspar Noé is one of the most controversial directors working today. I believe he's from France, or at least he makes French films, because he makes French extremist films in that subgenre. I believe there's a subgenre that's called that. In 2009, he made Enter the Void, which is very psychedelic, and a lot of people think it's pretentious, but I think it's fucking full of... He just captures the essence of like an omnipotent adventure through like past life, and all the emotions are there and conveyed brilliantly. It's visceral. It's graphic. He's a very graphic director. He did Irreversible 2002, which is the most probably, well, you know, it's one of the most disturbing films ever made. He's got one of the most disturbing scenes ever made, but also because it's disturbing because it's unrelentingly realistic, depicting something that is foul and no one would really want to see in real life, but he depicts it as realistic as possible. But yeah, he's a brilliant fucking director for that. I think he's a bit of a dick as well, because all these like kind of extremist directors would be. But I really like his stuff. I haven't seen Love, which is like his most pornographic film, which people say is literally porn. I haven't seen it. I can't speak for it. But I have seen Climax, and that's what puts him on the map for this. He's definitely an auteur. Perhaps not a genius, because he's a bit of a sick fuck. He's a high auteur. He's a high-functioning auteur. Climax is a fucking banger. Probably a perfect film. Perfect horror, psychological mindfuckery. Don't watch it if you are hungover or feeling bad or on a come down, or anything in your life is kind of significantly upsetting at the moment, if you're going through a rough patch in your life. But it's a brilliant film. Next up is George Miller, who directed Mad Max Fury Road and a few other films I haven't seen any of them. He did Happy Feet, apparently, whatever. The cool thing about him is he directed the original Mad Max films, Mad Max Road Warrior, which is fucking brilliant, and when it was time for the franchise to be remade, he came in and directed that at a fairly more senior age. It's just so cool because he made a fucking ultimate edition of the original concept he had in his mind when he made those original films, and it's just like Mad Max Fury Road was the best film to come out of whatever given year it was. It's one of the best action films ever made, one of the best films of the last decade, all that blah blah blah. He definitely deserves our tour just because of that devotion of coming back after all those years and fucking nailing it. And Road Warrior isn't a mediocre film by any stretch, and isn't really a flawed film, but just like, I'm so glad you have Road Warrior and fucking Mad Max Fury Road. They're fucking both brilliant, but Mad Max Fury Road is just like fucking hell. Like fucking hell. A perfect utilisation of modern special effects, modern technology, but not like just overuse of CGI, because fucking hell, man. But it's brilliant. Next up, Greta Gerwig. Very talented writer, to be fair. Works a lot with Noah Baumbach, who is also a director who will appear on this list. She's only directed 2 films as of recently, Little Women and Lady Bird. I haven't seen Little Women. Lady Bird was well written, funny and all that. It was okay, you know, it wasn't like an amazing masterpiece as that indie Carson Runquist guy thinks. You know, oh god, this woman, to be fair, if I was Carson Runquist, I'd be like, she is definitely going here because she makes a movie like playing a piano or some shit. Really, she is a better writer than director. I'm not even sure if she cut out to be a director. This is going to be controversial, but Lady Bird is a Judd Apatow movie with better writing. So talented. Okay, I'll put her in talented, but kind of a low talented, like low spectrum. Next in the G's, Frogman, Guelmo del Toro. Guelmo del Toro is an advocate for making adult fantasy films. The fantasy genre directed at an adult audience because that is possible. He directed Pan's Labyrinth in the early 2000s, which is fucking brilliant. But more recently, in 2017, The Shape of Water, and I'll judge him for that. Shape of Water, masterfully directed. He's an auteur. He's someone that every time he makes a film, you should keep an eye out for him and say, oh, what are you doing now? I know he's done Pacific Rim as well in this last decade, which well, you know, it's a studio film, but I think he tried his best. I don't know. I always expect when directors like this artistic, with this unique a style, I always expect them to like absolutely just elevate whatever they do to like god tier cinema. It's weird that you get like fucking Guillermo del Toro and it's like Pacific Rim and it's like it's alright. It is very weird, but yeah. Anyway, he's definitely an auteur. Okay, next up, Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's very stylistic, but it's a very surface level style. He's like a surface level version of Scorsese, Tarantino and Edgar Wright all at the same time because he uses similar things but in just like less nuanced ways. On memory, I really like Snatch and Lock, Stock, but I might not like them as much when I rewatch them. I might just find them kind of pretentious and just, oi mate, how you doing? Cockney gazers? Just like shit. His whole Cockney gangster thing, it's a thin novelty that wears off very fast when you watch his films. Guy Ritchie, some more recently did a Man from U.N.C.L.E. reimagining. I'm not familiar with Man from U.N.C.L.E. show or whatever it was, but that was a bland film that had nothing going on, and at the time when that came out, I was like, oh, Guy Ritchie's a very stylistic guy, I'm looking forward to this, but nothing, utterly passable. Again, stylistic director should just elevate whatever, but anyway. He did King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, which I haven't seen, but again, like, obviously didn't stand out. And he also did Aladdin, which I've seen enough reviews of to kind of feel like I've seen it. Ralph the Movie Maker did a great review on it a couple of years ago, and like when you see Ralph the Movie Maker review a film, you kind of get like the essence of what that film's all about. And I can say Aladdin's a fucking cynical cash grab, and it's a corporate fucking piece of shit without having seen it, just having what I have seen from other people's reviews. Guy Ritchie directed a corporate shell of a movie. You're letting the side down as a filmmaker when you do shit like that. Like, what the fuck, man? But by that point, I kind of like clued in. He's not really an auteur. He's just a fucking guy who had a gimmick, really. He's not he's just, wouldn't even call it stylistic, just fucking gimmicky. And then he made The Gentleman in 2019, which was a return. He wanted to obviously do another gangster film, a gangsters and gayster film, because he wanted to return to his roots, and was just kind of a basic bitch Guy Ritchie film that just he did nothing new. He didn't challenge himself at all. He just did everything that the other old films do. I thought The Gentleman was an empty piece of shit. Let's say The Irishman is like a big fuck off steak, but it's so big it kills you off, but there's definitely substance to it. Guy Ritchie's fucking McDonald's burger meat, honestly, with his films. So yeah, The Gentleman was just empty. Watchable, but just fucking like, come on, mate. Yeah, he's not a fucking auteur, he's just a fucking douchebag, and yeah, he's sold out numerous times. Comes back to make the exact same film he did 20 years ago. So I don't think I'll like Snatch as much on rewatch. Anyway, Guy Ritchie, not necessarily incompetent, but you know what? Fuck it. You did Aladdin, mate. Fuck you. Actually, you know what? Bloody hell. I didn't expect Guy Ritchie to be the first one to go into that. Fuck me. But because incompetent's not the right word, but hack, because he's a sellout. He's letting the side down as an artist. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, we're on to H's, but I'm going for a piss. Oh my god. I'm just gonna get another drink. I'll be doing this forever. Okay. Harmony Korine, we're into the H's. Harmony Korine directed Spring Breakers and Guelmo, which I haven't seen, but it's on like one of the top priority films on the watch list because it's apparently all weird and shit. He directed The Beach Bum, which I guess I'm judging him mostly for that. I really like The Beach Bum. I think that was the first Harmony Korine film I watched. I thought it just like nonsensical, definitely had something going on, funny, but also just, you know, kind of gritty, down in the dirt of society, but it's real at least, you know, just gruesome and weird and bizarre, comedic, but he's definitely got a thing. He likes plunging the depths, but he goes to the real depths of society. Even though Spring Breakers is a bit indulgent and a bit bullshitty, not 100% competent, but still you go to like fucking grim ends of the fucking world, of the fucking culture, society. Yeah, he's an interesting filmmaker. If I saw Guelmo and it was like an amazing film, it's like, oh, Guelmo is Harmony Korine's masterpiece, maybe he'd be going an auteur, but for now I'll put him in remarkable substantive director. Hirokazu Korida, South Korean director. I've only seen one film of his, but it was enough to inspire me to put him on this list. It was Shoplifters, brilliant South Korean film, everyone should watch it. Quite similar thematically to Parasite, came out a couple of years prior. I think I've put a bunch of his films on my watch list, but yeah, he's definitely one to check out. South Korean cinema is just fucking killing it at the moment. So he might be an auteur if I'd just seen more of his work. I might consider him an auteur, whatever that means. But he's definitely remarkable. Stomach acid reflux. Ilya, oops. YTP. Hello, I'm wide. We have Ilya Nayashula. He is a director who directed Hardcore Henry, I think 2015. Very cool, funny film, over the top, ridiculous, everything you want, self-aware, irreverent, great film. Really kick-ass film. It was like all done in a first-person shooter style. Captures like the essence of your crazy-ass video games. A bit like Crank in that way. Then he recently just did Nobody, which released this year, with Bob Odenkirk, which was also really good, really enjoyable. Not quite as good as Hardcore Henry, though. Bit disappointed there, but still really entertaining. Very John Wickian, with just Bob Odenkirk doing a John Wickian kind of thing. Very competent guy. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. I'll put him in remarkable. Fuck it. He's going there. Yeah, he's going there, fam. But. Next up is James Gunn. James Gunn's kind of an A-list director now. Done a lot of films for Marvel. He started off doing like weird indie films. He did a creative comedic horror, Slither, which is really good. Did Super, which is really funny, like a fucked up vigilante film. Very irreverent, very edgy kind of filmmaker. And then Disney got him to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's the only reason that they stand out in any particular way. First Guardians I like, but it's not that good. It kind of is still a slave to the Marvel formula. Guardians 2 is James Gunn's best film. And that is never the case when they get indie directors to do Marvel films. Usually the indie directors and their worst film of their filmography is the Marvel film, like Taika Waititi's worst film is Thor Ragnarok. But yeah, James Gunn, his best film is Guardians 2, and it's the best Marvel film in my opinion, the most like interesting, most unique, most like artsy, all that shit, just all that just everything good about filmmaking. It's a fucking awesome film. So where does James Gunn sit based on that criteria, Bacho? Well, he isn't like in the league yet. I feel like he has to become his own a bit, stray away from studios and make a few more masterpieces. He hasn't made a masterpiece yet, but maybe make just like an amazing fucking film. I feel like he hasn't quite got there yet. He's just a really good indie director. So that kind of puts him in the remarkable kind of category. He's the best person who works for Marvel at the moment, at least, I'm pretty sure. James Mangold. James Mangold recently directed Logan and Ford v Ferrari. He also directed The Wolverine, I believe. But he's a competent director, definitely. But Logan, for me, wasn't the masterpiece that everyone saw it was. I just thought it was very still derivative of better, older films like Unforgiven and Children of Men. Obviously, the performances are good, but that doesn't make this guy a good director, really. I would say he kind of fits quite nicely into the bland category. That's where he's going to go. I'm never excited to see a film by James Mangold. Ford v Ferrari is a very just ridiculously crowd-pleasing film. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. Good car stuff, they got all the details right, but ridiculously inoffensive crowd pleaser. No directorial style or ingenuity or whatever the fuck the terms are. Jim Cummings, not to be confused with some other guy who came up when I searched his name, who I should probably be extremely familiar with. Jim Cummings is a very, very, very small-time director who's made only 2 films at the moment. I've only seen one, only because YMS covered here his film Thunder Road on his channel. He reviewed it and I thought, oh, it's pretty cool, sounds good. It's a very, very low-budget film. It uses so little to do quite a lot. It's one of those films that's a tragedy and a comedy at the same time, but it's still got its own flair, its own thing. It's really sad. It actually did get me a little bit. Oh, fuck! I really got a kick out of Thunder Road. I'm pretty sure it was on Netflix at some point, so go check it out if it's still on Netflix. Thunder Road, nice little film, not too depressing. It's got substance. It's like got a nice heart. It's got real shit going on, just done through a black comedic lens, but still, just like a really nice, impressive film from him. And I almost want to put him in Remarkable, but I guess he's not quite there yet, but he's probably on his way to being like a fucking remarkable guy. I say like there isn't as much substantial auteurs anymore because it's mainly like all the creative filmmakers are in indie and they're just smaller and lower budget films, so there's not as much like artistic people out and about at the moment. Okay, next up is J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams makes very enjoyable, watchable films. He is kind of your go-to Hollywood hack to kind of revitalise a franchise, like just enough so people go, oh, that was pretty good. So he did the Star Trek remakes, he did Star Trek Into Darkness, and he did Star Wars, Force Awakens, and then they did Rian Johnson did Last Jedi, but then Rian Johnson got kicked off, and then he came back in to make Rise of Skywalker. I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, but again, from everything I fucking heard, I'm not. It's shit. I know secondhand it's shit. Force Awakens is inoffensive, it's competently made on a visual level. Mission Impossible, he also made Mission Impossible 3, which needed some life in it at the time, which again, a very enjoyable film. He's a little bit like any other kind of studio hack like kind of person, but he just can make it a bit more entertaining because Mission Impossible 3 is a really cool film. As a director, he kind of very nicely fits into the bland category. I don't respect him particularly as really that much. He's like kind of a Spielberg without the fucking creativity, really, just kind of soft reboots everything. He's your go-to Hollywood hack. So that's J.J. Abrams for you. Joe Cornish. Now, Joe Cornish, very different kind of director to J.J. Abrams. Joe Cornish worked on Hot Fuzz and other Edgar Wright projects, I believe, in his earlier career. Now he's made, at least to my knowledge, 2 films that I've seen. Attack the Block in 2012, I think, very, very early on, to be fair, 2010 or 11 maybe. Like Edgar Wright, his films mix fantasy with like just normal, ordinary stuff, like, you know, Shaun of the Dead is set in like a normal like London street, like suburban place, and Hot Fuzz is like a normal, like quiet country village, and but like weird stuff happens. He mixes like a very cinematic genre in with like ordinary British stuff, and obviously that appeals to me. So he kind of learnt from Edgar Wright in that way. So he did Attack the Block, which mixes like an alien invasion, invading like a normal street and or normal block, where like, you know, inhabited mostly by young black people. And even as silly as it is, it does kind of capture that lifestyle of like your typical black teen in that kind of rundown London area quite well, and it's quite a good brief little encapsulation of that still in this genre film. So I really like Attack the Block. And The Kid Who Would Be King is his more recent one, which is more kid-friendly, obviously, but that is essentially just like normal kid in modern day goes on the King Arthurian, the typical quest, because it's still all happening just in the modern day, you know, the sword and all that. It's very silly, very zany, but very just kind of creative, just a lot of fun, you know, just someone doing a story that he obviously loves, just like, this is a lot of fun, we're doing this cool story. It's both really wholesome films. You might find Kid Who Would Be King a bit irritating, but I think it's just charming as fuck, and yeah, so Joe Cornish is a good guy, so he's definitely talented. Oh, it's John Lasseter, another prominent Pixar guy. He's probably the main Pixar guy. Toy Story 2, Bugs Life, Cars and Cars 2. So kind of like Toy Story and Toy Story 2, kind of Cars and Cars 2 kind of cancel each other out in terms of quality. That's unfortunate. It's a bit of a stalemate. So unfortunately, Bugs Life is his only hope to redeem himself, which Bugs Life is not really a great film, but I don't know, it's kind of like a little bit of a meme for me. It's just like the forgotten Pixar film. It's just a bit stupid, but it's also kind of cool. I don't know. It's not like their best. They're the early days of Pixar. As a director, he's obviously got it going on, but he's more of like a slave to Pixar at the moment. You know, he's just Cars 2. I mean, what the fuck was that? He's obviously a creative guy, but because Pixar are bland. He's not like trying to change anything up as a director. He's just going along with what Pixar are, and that's the problem with all these Pixar directors apart from Brad Bird. He's a talented guy on the downward spiral, so he's going in the talented branch, but he's not got much potential to do anything great in the future. A bit of a fall from grace there in a lot of ways. Obviously Toy Story 1 and 2 are fucking remarkable, but conceptually they're amazing too, and there's a lot going on there. A lot of people did work on those films as well. Okay, next up, John Watts. Now I'm guessing John Watts is another one of those indie directors that Marvel pick up to do some of their films, but all I've seen is the Spider-Man films, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, which are good because of Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal and all of the actors, and not at all because of this guy. They are the most blandly directed Marvel films out of the whole bunch almost, but like fucking hell, the cinematography is ridiculously bland. Did a whole video on it comparing them to the Sam Raimi films. He sucks, and I haven't seen whatever indie film he made before that, but I can't really be arsed. Fuck it. He's a bland guy, ridiculously bland. Fucking hell. Jonah Hill. Oh, we all know Jonah Hill. He's that funny fat guy. Oh, sorry, that's not me. But no, he was quite chubby back in the day. Just objectively. Jonah Hill from the old Seth Rogen crew. I never really minded them much. They weren't that irritating. I thought they were fairly funny guys. But anyway, now Jonah Hill's a director. He directed one film so far, I believe. Mid-90s, an A24 film. Very good for a first-time director. I'm repeating myself, but yeah, it definitely goes in the talented branch. Ridiculous, especially for Jonah Hill, which, you kind of associate with like immature sort of comedies. It's a very mature film. It's a very realistically done. It's kind of like a smaller, not as good as This Is England, but like an American This Is England. It's set in the mid-90s as well. A very, very strong film. Very short, but like authentic acting, naturalistic performances, which is just like all you really need when you make a film on that smaller scale, where it's just like a slice of life. So he did a good job there, but he's up and coming, he's on an upward trajectory. He might make a shit film next, who knows. Jordan Peele, a great black director who makes good black films, tackle black subject matter in authentic, creative ways through horror. This is awesome. He's implicit in the current horror renaissance we're going through right now because of Get Out mostly. So Get Out is really good. I really like Get Out. I want to rewatch it soon. I haven't fucking seen it since I fucking watched it the first time, but it's stayed in my memory. I haven't really forgotten much of it, to be fair. Very memorable film. And Us was definitely flawed. And I know why everyone hated it, or at least half people hated it. But definitely some interesting things going on there. Some of like the allegories and the metaphors were just really cool. It was basically like the weird comedic stuff and like the pacing, I believe, and like dialogue and acting. I don't know. It was a confusing film, but definitely something there. Not like a soulless film. Just a bit of an incompetent in certain areas. So yeah, he's going to go into the remarkable bin. I hope he makes something on the level of like Get Out or above now, because he was up and coming. Okay, Joss Whedon, another cancelled celebrity. I don't know what Joss Whedon's cancelled for. I think it's just sexual harassment, being weird with women. The usual deal. And he kind of looks, fucking hell, but you can imagine it though, can't you, with that fucking face. All that aside though, I did like him a lot as a director. I think he made Avengers, the first Avengers, what it was, made it really, really fun, entertaining. All the characters were charismatic because of him, and the good witty dialogue. Then he did Avengers 2, and he made the same film again, but like with an overindulgent volume of his style. All these fucking jokes, and it does get old, and he's not all the jokes are hilarious. I think he kind of progressively got less funny with these kind of witticisms that the superheroes dish out at each other. It got less funny as it goes on. There was a really funny shit in the first Avengers film. Age of Ultron is shite, not so much, Obviously, people hate him for the Justice League because he put all of like these shite jokes in the Justice League that he was kind of brought on by the studio to fix or whatever, because Zack Snyder unfortunately had a tragedy whilst making that. There's been a bit of like revisionist history because of Joss Whedon's been cancelled, and he's kind of been used as the scapegoat for how shit the original Justice League 2018 film, how shit that was. 2017 film, the original Justice League film. That was shite and everyone blames him. But he's still very competent, and he's still made Avengers what it is today. I think Age of Ultron, he initially intended it to be a 3-hour film, so he had, because it's so much ridiculous amount of action, but for the 3 hours probably balanced it out with the drama. I bet he made all of that. Then the fucking studio said, take all of this drama shit out, make it like a more accessible runtime, but don't take any of the action out. God forbid, don't take any of the action out. You've got the amount of action that's suitable only for a 3-hour film, so you've got an improportionate balance of action and fucking drama. So maybe that's what's up with, but still some cringy jokes in there. He also did Firefly, which I rewatched a few episodes of like a year ago or something. Not as good as on rewatch as I didn't like. I liked it a lot when the first time I watched it, but I was a bit sick of the old everyone's got cheesy banter sort of thing. So where is he? He's not going to make anything great because he's been cancelled, or maybe he redeems himself. He goes to prison, gets out, and he says, I know what it's fucking like to be raped. Jesus, he's definitely talented, but like that doesn't mean he's got the spark, and he had the spark, he was talented. He's not going to make anything more because he's cancelled. It's downward. There's no potential for a great film. Judd Apatow. Okay, you should know Judd Apatow. You should have seen him throughout, like, growing up. You should have, 15-year-old you would have loved this guy's films. So yeah, this guy did Knocked Up, 40-Year-Old Virgin, a lot of those kind of early 2000s comedies. The thing that separates Judd Apatow from most other American comedic directors is that he does actually care about the characters in his films. He doesn't just see them as like goofy comedic people and just like, oh yeah, just tell a joke now, I'm going to put the camera on and you just tell a joke. He kind of likes to draw out and make a dramatic story out of just like the concept, the baseline concept that he has. Because it's just like Knocked Up, he's like, loser stoner guy knocks up beautiful woman, but he like drags out and makes it a 2-hour film, and it's like a proper drama. And I think Knocked Up has got plenty of substance. Really, it's not really like a bad schmaltzy film. I feel like Judd Apatow put in all the work. I feel like it's a fairly competent, solid film, really. And 40-Year-Old Virgin, again, that's like a gimmick. You see the trailer for it, but it's a full 2-hour film. It's a real full-on fucking film. So he goes that extra step, and sometimes they get overlong. Like This Is 40 is a bit of a slog. It's not a particularly good film, not a funny film, and it just goes on for fucking ages. Casts his wife in every film that he ever makes, but yeah, he's not an amazing director. I have a soft spot for Knocked Up. I guess it's alright. It's a decent film. Everyone acts themselves. Everyone's friends in that movie, and it comes across. Everyone's just acting themselves, and it's just chilled. Okay, more recently he did This Is 40, which wasn't very good. So he can make fairly bland films, all in all. And then Trainwreck was his second most recent film, I believe, and that wasn't very good. I don't know why I watched that, to be fair. It's just fucking, what's her name in the one that everyone hates, Amy Schumacher. He's done another film called King of Staten Island, which has the Pete Davidson guy from SNL and Bill Burr. From what I understand, Pete Davidson is the lead and Bill Burr is like secondary, but I don't understand why it's not the other way around, because Bill Burr should be at the very centre of fucking comedy, not fucking Pete Davidson. Anyway, I'm not sure where he stands, to be fair, bruv, but I kind of respect him a little bit. Let's say he's on the very lowest spectrum of talented. He's got his own little thing. He is a little bit bland. He is fairly bland, but he's just edging out onto talented. He's not going to make any masterpieces or any great films, but maybe he will. But Trainwreck was shite. That might be my most generous rating today. Next up, a very different director. Ken Loach. What a G. Ken Loach is a British director. He makes films about British people, at least, maybe, I think. Probably Geordie, I don't know, I don't fucking know where he's from. But Ken Loach, he's made 2 films that have put him on the map for me. I, Daniel Blake in 2016, and Sorry We Missed You in 2018. I only recently watched both of them. I fucking love Sorry We Missed You. I think that's a fucking brilliant film. I just love films that just capture the environment, the essence of like what life is like in the particular location at the particular time. They capture it so well and authentically. It's literally like you're on a fucking fly on the wall in the real place, in the real environment. And just because I'm obviously from Britain and I'm fairly clued into that sort of stuff, but it's just a brilliant British film. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to whatever this guy does next. He uses fairly little, but got such authentic performances out of people. Really sad. Weirdly enough, I expected, because I watched Sorry We Missed You first, then I, Daniel Blake, and I didn't like I, Daniel Blake as much as Sorry We Missed You. So even though I, Daniel Blake was great. It's really noble, the subject matter he covers. And just like thinking of it, I can imagine fucking like Ben Shapiro watching his films or seeing the trailer and labelling it like fucking socialist propaganda. Like, no, it's just being sympathetic to these real fucking people that live like this. It's not trying to say anything political. You're allowed to make films that criticise the fucking way the government works. Every fucking thing can be criticised through film. Anyway, where does this guy go? He's definitely on the way to being an auteur. Fuck it, should we put him there? Because he's pretty fucking solid there. Maybe one more film. He's on his way. He's on his way. Okay. Oh shit, Lars Von Trier. So this guy is known to be the provocateur director. He includes things in his films that are very, very extreme compared to like what we're used to seeing in films. He goes to these extremes, usually to make a point. His films always debut at Cannes or other festivals and people always walk out. It's usually very divisive. Half the audience walks out mid-screening and the other half gives him a standing ovation at the end. A lot of people have a love-hate relationship with him. I've seen quite a lot of his films, to be fair, and I've liked quite a lot of them. Dance in the Dark's fucking great. Melancolia's really good, and that was a 2012 film, I think. Antichrist is a good example because that has an instance where it goes to the absolute extreme in terms of gore. It feels thematically justified, or at least I can thematically justify it. But yeah, Antichrist is fucking brilliant. His films that he did in this decade were Melancholia in 2012, I think. The 2 volumes of Nymphomaniac is altogether a 4-hour film, but it's like there's 1 and 2 volumes. And then House That Jack Built. Nymphomaniac, both volumes are quite shite and indulgent and like the worst, have all of the worst aspects of Lars Von Trier's style, so it's for lack of a better word. A lot of it borders on incompetent filmmaking that you just shouldn't expect to see from any director, any remotely substantial director, remotely professional director. There's some really incompetent shit there. Really cheesy shit. Preachy as well. All his films are preachy, but this one's just fucking a lot of empty statements and a lot of flawed philosophy and just a bunch of bullshit, and like it's just his least intelligent film. I'm not saying he's like a genius or anything, but he's made some pretty cool films with some that have nuance in them. But the Nymphomaniac, and obviously it's called Nymphomaniac, is extremely pornographic. It can either be an avant-garde masterpiece or just an indulgent shy, but because you don't really have much thematic substance to cling on to, you just kind of get fucking tired of this ridiculous amount of porn. It doesn't serve that much because it's a 4-hour fucking film. It's just him trying to be edgy, I guess. But, you know, I'm kind of glad I saw it because it's interesting to see, but fuck me, it was still rough. Oh, and House That Jack Built, which is his most recent film, 2018, I watched half of it and stopped in the middle for fear that I'd later have a panic attack based on what I would see, what I'd start to see based on what I'd already seen. I was like, okay, it was probably a big overreaction. I was in a weird place, but yeah, definitely an overreaction. I need to get on to watching the second half. But I remember the fucking first half of it vividly, you know, and I do think it would be one of the ones that I did, one of his films that I would like, even though it was seeming to be very indulgent, and everyone says it's indulgent, and everyone says it's like him jerking himself off. I don't really mind that. But yeah, there was some interesting stuff going on in there. I think he's a very competent filmmaker. I think he's made some great stuff. So just on his repertoire, his recent repertoire, I think he easily goes in auteur, substantial, got his own style, got his own vision, you know, got his own like kind of thematic philosophy in his films and shit. So yeah, I do like Lars von Trier a great deal, to be fair.